Okay, dear students, how are you all? This is Professor Varun and welcome you all to my presentation. And in this presentation, I am going to share some quick tips with you people so that the students, those who are appearing in the exam tomorrow, that is N22 for the IB Physics SL and HL, they will be getting benefited with these tips. So these tips I have designed so that you are able to perform best. You are able to get the maximum marks with the minimum efforts that you put in. So there are a couple of things. Let us first of all see. So number one thing is that we must first of all understand what is there in the question paper. So for that case, I have divided our question paper into 4 different parts and we would be discussing all those parts one by one. So coming to the part number 1. Now I have divided this question paper based on my experiences of solving your questions, solving your exam papers. So what I have found is that in the first 10 questions, which are the easiest of most in the complete examination, they belong to the chapter Measurement Uncertainty and Mechanics. So these 2 chapters have to be perfected when you are doing your practice, when you are learning. These 2 chapters become most important. Why? Because the easiest of the questions that are coming in your examination, they belong to these 2. So if you have time left with you, you can try to practice these questions more. And the point to be noted is that these are covered in 1 to 10 or like nearly 10 or 11 questions from this. So this is the part number 1 that is easiest of all. And you have to start this part first of all. Now what happens when we start moving to the next part? See, this is part number 2, which consists of question number 11 to approximately equal to question number 22. My reading says that in these 11 questions you have these 3 chapters. Now the chapter number 1 is thermal physics, chapter number 2 waves, and chapter number 3 is electricity and magnetism. I would like to say that I rank this part as the most difficult part. Like, it is not the difficult part, but it is highly confusing, I would say. So to be clear about this thing, like let us say thermal physics, there are so many of the topics here. There is thermodynamics, there is an ideal gas, PV is equal to nRT, there is modeling of gas, and this is also a very difficult topic because there are so many of the formulas to be remembered. So I think this topic is little confusing, but yes, it is the easiest of all these 3. Fine. Now when we come to the second chapter, that is waves, I must tell you, I am most dreaded with this part of the physics. You know why? Because there are so many things here. You see, there are traveling waves, there is oscillation, polarization, and then diffraction, interference, standing waves. So they are not leaving any topic here, and they are asking questions from all of the topics some or the other time. So it becomes difficult, and these questions are difficult. Well, indeed, I have met with some students, those who say that they are highly comfortable with waves and they are very good at waves, but they are not good in motion. So but I feel generally you will find people those who are good with motion but bad with waves. Okay, so that's why I'm ranking this part as the most difficult. Now you see, the third chapter that is being completed here is electricity and magnetism. Now this part also I will rank it as to be difficult. Why? Because number 1, there are so many of the topics here. There is Kirchhoff's law, there is finding directions in the magnetic case, and so there are electric fields, and the IB is literally asking questions of very high level from this part. So I cannot say that these are easy questions. So this part I would like to rank to be one of the most difficult part in your question paper. So this has to be attempted last, not consecutively. Okay, so part 1 is the first part that you are going to do in tomorrow's exam first, and then you are not touching this part first. So you would be moving to the part number 3. So let us directly move to part number 3 now. What is happening here? In part number 3, there are question number 23 to question number 30. They are consisted in part number 3. So which are the chapters that are being completed here? So the first chapter is circular motion and gravitation. Now in this chapter, I would say circular motion is well within our reach, and laws of gravitation is also not that very difficult. If you practice and if you learn couple of formulas, this complete chapter falls into your basket. So I think this is done. This is one of the easiest. And as much as atomic, nuclear and particle physics is concerned, it's little different, but even this is not that difficult, because it is almost like the chemistry part that we are doing, and we have done this part many a times in science now. So I think this part is also easy until you reach the topic named Feynman diagrams. So they are a little more confusing, I would say. But apart from that, you talk about the Bohr's hydrogen spectrum, you talk about the structure of atom, you talk about the nuclear radiations, radioactivity. Everything is little easier, but this Feynman diagram is quite confusing. So this is part number 3, that is from question number 23 to 30. I will rank it the second in the list of easiest parts. So first of all, you have to go to part number 1, complete those 10 questions, and then directly jump to question number 23 and find the next question from circular motion, in which they would be asking you a question on centripetal forces most probably. So from here, then you move down and you go to question number 30. Do not go to question number 31 now, because that will become HL. So that is only for HL, not for SL. SL examination consists of only 3 parts. Okay, these part 1, part 2, part 3 is created by me. IB is not specifying these 3 things. So do not get confused there. Like they have not mentioned part 1, 2, 3. Part 1, 2, 3 will not be mentioned there. It is only you who is creating that. Okay, now moving next. So this is part number 3. So after completing this part number 3, you are supposed to go to part number 2. Okay, only then you are going to part number 2. Then you complete this question number 11 to question number 22. Then you go to part number 4. So this part will be completed only if the student is preparing for HL examination. Only then you would be getting these 10 questions. Obviously this is of the highest level, because there are so many number of topics and every topic is a difficult topic. So these 10 questions are very difficult indeed. So this is how we divide your question paper into 4 different segments, and I have ranked them according to the easiest part. So first of all, when you start your exam, you go for part number 1, then you go for part number 3, then you go for part number 2, and then you go for part number 4. So this is how you attempt the question paper to maximize your performance. See, if you get in part number 1 and part number 2, let us say, because these are the easiest parts, part number 1 and part number 3. If you are able to solve majority of the questions, it will increase your confidence so much that part 2 and part 4, you would be so highly confident that you would be getting more marks from this also. So in this way, you can maximize your performance. Now, moving to the next slide. So these are my 3 tips to you. What are those? Number 1, do the easy questions first and skip the difficult questions. It saves times. So what I have written is, first of all, when you go into round number 1 for your examination, you are supposed to complete all the easy questions. Now, what do you mean by easy question? The question that you know. Now, for example, if you are good with waves and bad in motion, so wave will be easy for you. So I don't mean to say that if it is easy, it has to be from motion. No, I'm not saying that. So easy means the topics that you are comfortable with. So if there is a topic that you are comfortable with, so that topic has to be finished first. So once you do that, that will be your round 1. And then you come back again to those questions which you have marked as difficult questions. Now this is the second tip. Attempt the exam in multiple rounds. So this was the round number 1, that you have completed all the easy questions, or all the questions that would have fallen into your kitty very easily. So in round number 1, we are doing all those questions. In round 2, we are now attempting those questions which you have marked them properly, that okay, this is a difficult question and needs more attention, and they are more time consuming. So you do not want to go for a time consuming question in round number 1. Okay, so in round number 2 you go for those questions which are difficult. Okay, now what is the third tip? Divide the question paper into 4 parts. So that we have already done. So you have to divide the question paper in 4 different parts in your mind, so that you are having a better understanding of the question paper, like which part is you are missing marks on which part is posing biggest problem to you. So you would be able to understand the exact picture or exact scenario there, what is happening. Fine. So these are my 3 tips, and the next is some easy tips more. Now what are these? Number 1 tip is you need to attempt all of the questions, whether you know them or whether you not. So you have to attempt all the questions. Do not leave any question behind. Okay. Number 2 is be more concerned with the easy questions. So it is easy question that is going to fetch you mark. It is not difficult question. See, here is a catch. While you are preparing for the examination, it is difficult question that has to be preferred while you are preparing for it. An easy question will not prepare you well. So while you are preparing, search for difficult question. You should be thirsty for difficult questions. But when you are sitting in the examination hall, stay away from the difficult questions. You are only supposed to go for easy questions first, because difficult questions are placed so beautifully on your examination paper so as to waste maximum of your time, so that you are not able to attempt the other questions. Now that is the trick. So you save yourself from that part. Stay away from difficult questions. We know that you are intelligent, but stay away. Don't get egoistic at the time. Okay, now coming to the last tip, that is tip number 3. If you are sure about 2 options from 4, concentrate a little more. Now what do I want to say here is, like, let us say you have these 4 options A, B, C, D. Now what happens is, many a times you are 100% sure, you are 100% sure that I think A and C are absolutely correct, B and D are absolutely wrong. So I am sure about 2 options. So this question, it becomes even more important for you. Why? Because when you apply a guess here, a hunch here, that I think A should be the correct answer, be more concerned with such kind of questions. Why? Because these questions you have already eliminated 2, so there is more chance now that you would be hitting on a right answer. That is why. So you need to concentrate on these tips also. So my dear students, these are my all final tips. Just to enumerate, first of all, we have divided your examination into 4 different parts. Part number 1, which is easiest, and you have to complete this part first, and then part number 2, which is the difficult part. So you can wait for this part. Directly move to part number 3 after doing part number 1. That is, after question number 10, directly move to question number 23 and go up to 30. So this way you would be able to save your time, and you would be able to gain confidence that okay, fine, I am doing very good. Now after this part number 3, you go to part number 2 and you fight your way. Fine. And then you go to part number 4, which is HL, and definitely this will be the most difficult part of the examination. Fine. So once you do this, now what are the other things that I have told you? That first of all, it is easy questions that you have to do the examination in multiple rounds. In round number 1, do the easy questions, mark the difficult one. In round number 2, concentrate a little more on the difficult questions or the time consuming questions. And part number 3 is that always divide the question paper into 4 parts. Keep that in your mind, and keep yourself guiding yourself that okay, this part is difficult, this part is easy. The question that is posing a difficulty to you will also be posing difficulty to other students also. So be confident. Okay. Now the next thing is, it is easy question that is going to fetch you mark, not the difficult one. Okay. All of the questions have 1 mark each. So why to waste your time on difficult questions? Simple. Attempt all the questions. Do not leave any question unattempted, because there is no negative marking, and so you can enjoy doing that. Now, if you are sure about the two options, then this kind of question becomes excessively important for you, because this will get you a good mark even when you are not able to solve the question properly. So there will be a couple of questions which you would be able to like find two wrong options or two correct options without wasting any time. So you can go for the hunches if you are not able to solve the question properly. Okay, my dear students, so this is Professor Varun, and my heartiest wishes with all of the students, those who are going to appear in the examination tomorrow for N22 IB Physics SN and HL. All the best. All the best. Thank you all. Bye.